All right. Hello, everybody, in our Renew You Challenge. I am so excited to be here with you, and I'm so excited to be with my friend Anita Bueno. Oh my gosh, Anita and I go way back. We worked in the Forest Service together. Anita's a landscape architect, and I've mentioned before that I was in a position where I negotiated hydropower contracts for on the land, which also got us to scenic environment, what things look like, as well as recreation, how do we use it? And so those are some of the things that Anita used to do, and she was a master at creating beautiful, inspiring places. So I miss that work.
Me too. It was pretty
Yeah.
fun.
Anyway, sometimes life gets really, really hard, and that's actually what happened to both of us. It got really hard for Anita as she experienced autoimmune issues and was deteriorating in her joints. And so, when life gets hard, it's not always easy, and it's not going to fix things for you either. It's up to us. It's up to us to listen to our bodies. And I am so inspired with the work that Anita's done. So Anita's become a Feldenkrais practitioner, and we're going to learn all about that. So maybe we can start there. Anita, tell us a little bit about your journey to discover things and how it landed you being a Feldenkrais practitioner. And maybe we can start with what is that?
Okay, yeah. Oh, do you hear an echo? Is it just me? I think the echo is back. No?
I
Nope.
think it's good. It's good on my
Okay.
end.
Good. So let's start with what is a Feldenkrais practitioner? What is Feldenkrais, right? Because everyone says Felden what?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did too until I was, fell into this thing. But basically, the Feldenkrais method is a method of movement, using gentle movement and focused awareness to stimulate your nervous system into learning mode. And it's based on neuroplasticity. And so we use gentle movements, we use focused attention, and the movements are novel. They're something that you may not have done before, and they focus on shining a flashlight on how you do what you do, like noticing habits that you have that you didn't even knew you had, like how you're sitting or how you're standing, how you're moving. And it connects the mind and it uses the mind-body connection, right? Which is a duality
So
that's
amazing.
really,
Yes.
yeah, it's not even, they're not separate. So it uses that mind-body connection to not just get you to move better, but you also end up thinking better. You also end up thinking more clearly. You have more creativity. You have a wider perspective on things that are happening around you. You can respond to things as opposed to reacting. And so it's pretty profound what you can get out of this stuff. And we'll talk more about it.
Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Every time we speak, I always learn something new in that neuroplasticity. What?
Yeah. So
Those
okay,
neurons that fire together. She just made a quote to me earlier about our neurons that fire together are wired together, and it's just like so amazing. It would be fun to just talk about that, but we're also here to talk about integrating the lifestyle in terms of um, uh, food and exercise and all those things. And but before we get to that, um, Anita did an amazing discovery and took some time. She took some time off of work to really discover what are some natural things that can help with restoring the body and just having a life that is what's the new quality of life and what does that look like and how am I going to heal? So can you talk about, way back then when you were starting your journey and finding ways to feel better?
Well, sure. So, so like you said, I took some time off and I really was focusing on my health and how I can help myself do the things I want to do while I have rheumatoid arthritis, while I have RA. And I found through trial and error. And this, I'm not just going to say this is what worked for me. So this is my own personal experience. I'm not, a doctor giving anyone medical advice. But what worked for me was a combination of many small interventions. And some of it had to do with diet. And I really did a long and extensive trial and error with diet and what could work, what could help me feel better and what didn't make a difference at all. And the main thing for diet, for example, that changed everything was when I cut additional sugar out. And it went from having a flare where my joints were inflamed and in pain all over. And I cut the sugar out, and 2 weeks later, all of that pain and inflammation went away. So the sugar was huge for me, but it also included limiting gluten. So I was gluten-free, mostly grain-free for years, for like 8 years. I did this, finding different things. And then there was other things that also helped, right? So I did things with breath work, and I can talk more about that in a minute. I also did things with incorporating cold exposure to cold in different ways, like literally getting into an ice bath. I mean, when you're having a flare and things are hurting, you'll do anything.
Everything, yes.
Yeah. And so getting into an ice bath, just for like a minute, a couple of minutes, and coming back out. And that literally, flushed the inflammation from my whole body. And I would do that when I was having, acute flares. And then as a maintenance thing, I just end up turning the hot water off in the shower at the last minute or so and just do a cold, moment. And it sounds terrible, but it also, it activates your vagal nerves. And then we can talk about the, polyvagal theory. And there's a whole bunch of stuff on the internet about that. So we can go off on that as well. But there's also so yoga, and meditation and mindfulness. And then Qigong tapping, different tapping on your body to activate, I don't know what it does, but it just feels good. And it gives you energy when you're feeling fatigued, because fatigue was a big part of one of my symptoms. But going back to the sugar and the 8 years of no sugar whatsoever, no added sugar, I have to talk about what you did for me, Teri, is introduce me to this drink, right? The Plexus Slim drink.
And I'm going to interrupt you real quick because I just have to say it was amazing. I would have never thought to talk to Anita about the pink tree because she was so amazing, all the things, because she'd been helping me at the same time. Well, you might have been into 2 years of your journey is when my RA started getting really, really bad. And so I would just call up Anita and say, hey, what did you do for this? Or what did you do for that? So she was helping me along the way, and it was helping, but not at the rate that I wanted to. So it was really fun when I came across my own plexus connection and stuff. And it just was by happenstance that I might have even been drinking it while we were together talking about next steps and where we go. And otherwise, I probably would have never shared with you. So I just say that to anybody out there that needs to hear this, that you never know what people need to know. So never hold back information. So anyway.
It might be useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be useful. And so anyways, I started drinking this drink, and what it did for me, and it's different for everyone, is that it allowed me, for the first time in 8 years, the freedom to have sugar once in a while and to have something with gluten in it once in a while. So it made my life more normal. I wasn't, I wasn't so strict with when I went out to eat, like what's in everything. I was one of those people, and I hated being that person. So, not that we go out to eat much anymore at the moment, but but I can now explore new and go back to my favorites. So it I'm not feeling deprived. And so that's really nice.
So there's so many things that so many times people just kind of look at you because you're just saying, does it have this in it? Does it have that in it? Can you take that and remove that or whatever? Because you want to eat out, you want to have those same experiences, but it's so difficult when you're really trying to be mindful, especially with autoimmune triggers.
Yeah. And so that was nice. And so my diet now is more normal, but I'm always monitoring it. And like going back to those, like an anti-inflammatory diet, it also affects pretty much your whole gut is connected to your vagus nerve, which connects to everything. It connects to your breath, your heart, your lungs. All of your organs have this vagus nerve that comes down along the sides of your neck and it goes through every organ, and it just keeps it all organized so that things are working well together. And if you have a healthy vagal tone, everything's working well. But when you have some kind of health issue, an inflammatory issue, not just autoimmune, but it could also be, diabetes is linked to inflammation, and a heart disease, and all sorts of things are now linked to chronic inflammation in our body. And so having healthy vagal tone is something to aspire to, especially if you have like these chronic long-term conditions. And going back to the cold exposure, that affects your vagal tone by, reducing inflammation, but also kind of activating your vagus nerve so that things start activating. And your breath is connected to your vagal tone. So if we wanted to talk about breathing, I know that's something that Teri and I were talking about for a long time. Your vagus nerve or your breath is connected to having healthy vagal tone, and it's connected to your autonomic nervous system. And a lot of people don't know what that is, but it's a fancy way to say your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system, which you may have heard about because people talk about it. Sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight or freeze response, the stress response. And the parasympathetic is the rest and digest, or the calm, response. And there is constant movement back and forth, a balance between the two of them. So our bodies are always like swinging back and forth and keeping them in some sort of balance until it goes off to one direction or the other, whether you have more stress or you're feeling sluggish and fatigued. And what's amazing is that since our breath is connected to these responses, we can influence them by how we breathe. And bringing attention to how we're breathing is something we can do anywhere at all times. It's available to us. I'm simplifying things. So just so you know, I think it's a lot more complicated than that. But all you need to know to make it work is pretty much a working knowledge of how the breath affects these two different systems in your body. And when you're inhaling, it activates the sympathetic nervous system, the heightened response. And when you exhale, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And so that's what I'm saying. As you inhale and exhale, they're both in balance. But if you stress or elongate one half of your breath, whether the inhale or the exhale, you can start to activate either the sympathetic, the stress response, or the parasympathetic, the calming response, depending on what you need. If you're feeling very fatigued and you have to get through your day, you can activate the sympathetic response so that you can get more energy to your musculature and things like that. Where if you're feeling rather stressed, which a lot of us are, with all of this uncertainty in the world and things around us and things changing really quickly, you can elongate the exhale and bring the parasympathetic response online. pretty much literally putting the brakes on the stress response and bringing it back down to normal. And a quick way to remember that, because that's a whole lot to remember, is that if you think about it, when you get frightened, you gasp, inhale. That's you bringing the sympathetic response online, inhaling and kind of saying, oh, alert, alert. And then the system starts to get activated. And then let's say you are relieved, something just happened. It was a close call, but everything's fine. Phew, you exhale.
Yes.
Yes, like,
the one I like.
Yeah, that was close. And that's you literally are exhaling, and that's bringing the parasympathetic response online. And one other thing to note about that is that the stress response comes online really fast. Boom, you're in it. You're stressed out, and all of these different things start happening physiologically. Cortisol comes and adrenaline pour into your bloodstream, and all of the blood that was in your brain drains from your brain into your musculature to get you ready to fight or flight. And that happens super fast. And you can feel your heart rate, increase, and various other things happen through your organs and stuff like that.
So
and
true.
Then the resting, the parasympathetic response, that's putting the brakes on this system. And if you think of like a big rig going downhill, gaining speed, it takes a minute for the brakes to slow it down. So the parasympathetic response takes longer to come online. You have to be with it a little bit longer, exhaling a little bit longer. And what it does is it allows the blood to go back into your brain. So that way you can start to think clearer, be more creative, think about how you're going to respond to a certain situation. And they say that you lose like 30 points of IQ when you get stressed out because there's no blood in your brain.
That's what happened to me.
Right? But if you bring the parasympathetic response online, then you're calm, then you can start to think more clearly and respond appropriately to whatever situation is in front of you. But it takes a little bit of longer, so you have to stay with it longer.
I really have to say to everybody, Anita took me through this exercise where we were breathing in and out. We did both ways. When I was at the peak, I had an onset of a flare that was caused by medical-induced lupus. It gave me lupus, and it was because my body just and gut microbiome diversity just didn't want to accept the medicine, and I didn't even know it was a thing. Like I had no clue, and I have so much sympathy for anybody out there that has lupus because that is really a tough lifestyle, and really having to manage that and those good days, bad days, minimize flare-ups. So I really appreciate that. It's amazing. It really truly is to use these tools where you're just calming your body to do those breathing exercises that Anita just talked about, because it's amazing what it does for your body. And it's so simple. It doesn't even take that long. Of course, you have to be consistent. When you need to do it, just do it again.
Yeah. And it's as simple as just elongating one part of the breath, whichever one you need for whatever your goals are. I've used the sympathetic response when I'm really fatigued, when I was suffering with a lot of fatigue from RA, and I couldn't get up off of the chair to like go feed myself. And it's like, okay, that's a problem. It's like,
right?
you can't feed yourself and you're really tired. And just sitting there and working with your breath, just noticing your breath. Now, if people have a lot of anxiety, sometimes working with the breath can be too intense. And in that case, this is not for you. So just know that this is one way to affect that, and it's not the only way. There's other things you can do. You can go for a walk, and you can broaden your attention. So another way to manage stress, because what happens when you're stressed out? You get tunnel vision. You're just like focused and you obsess on one thing and you can't get it out of your head, and it's going over and over in your head, and it's just, you're just focused on one very specific thing, whether it's an event or maybe it's a part of your body that's in pain, or you're just worried about something that may happen, but you can't get it out of your head. And the response to that is to widen your attention, to actually move your attention, to start moving your attention to different things. And if your attention can wander to other parts of your body, what feels good, or wander to focus on, something that maybe might be easier and not trigger, give you a bigger perspective. I mean, you can think about, I don't know, the details of what you ate for breakfast, where has this egg been before, how long has this carrot been in from out of the ground? Like things like random questions that take your mind to somewhere that you haven't really thought about before, and paying attention to new details. And so your perspective broadens, and it starts to wander more, and you get a wider view of everything, of where you are in the universe, with your place in the world. And it can stop, or it can help to control that obsessive thinking that comes along with being stressed out. And you might find yourself being able to respond in a more appropriate way to things, and also noticing that, am I in danger at this minute? Like, no, I have enough air, I have shelter,
Yes.
I have food,
It's just me.
Yeah, it's like, I am not in danger at this very moment.
Yes.
And remembering that, so that your body can come down from this stress response.
It's so important. I was remembering a conversation we had the other day about always learning, always discovering, and finding new ways to help yourself. And we started talking about your lifestyle and all the different things you do. And you said something about your mirror regime. Can you tell us a little bit about that, on how you integrate your lifestyle? You're doing so much, and it's so amazing. You're cooking healthy, you're eliminating all these foods, so you're making new recipes, you're doing all these things, you're teaching classes, you're still working on the side as a landscape architect, yet you're doing some amazing movements in your business. How do you get it all done?
Well, you can't. So that's the thing to realize, is that I have this list of things that are good for me that I want to do. Everything from the cold exposure to yoga and meditation, working out, eating right. And you have to make it sustainable. And so what I did for myself was I made a list of all the things that are good that I wish I could do every day, but you can't. And so what I did was I allowed myself the freedom to pick 2 off of this list and do those today, and that's, it works for me, because one is, I hate routine. I can't do the same thing over and over and over. I need novelty, or I get bored really easy, which is that's another story about, that's why I'm a landscape architect, because we can do everything. And that's what, it's like, we have to know everything. But so for my lifestyle is just, I couldn't, and there's no way you can fit all of those things into your day every day. That's just not sustainable. You can't. Yeah. So I allowed myself the freedom to pick 2 off of this list. That's what you're going to do today. And, every day I can decide, like, how much time do I have? What do I feel like? Today I feel like I can do 10 minutes of yoga and meditate, or, tomorrow it'll be something else. And
I was really impressed by the way that you track things, because you're consistent with all of them. You make sure you get through all of them so that you're constantly moving towards all of the various things that are helping you. And so my mind was blown the other day with this new technique I'm going to be using with just the wipe off markers. She keeps track on her mirror. Can you tell us about how you do that?
Um, well,
Didn't mean to surprise you on that, but what a novel idea to just take the pens and write all the lifestyle things that you have in your toolbox. And she was telling me she just has them all over there, and so for each day she picks two and she checks it off, and
yeah,
then she picks two other ones, so that by the time that she's done with the whole regime, she's completed them all, and then she, the checks go away, and and then she does it
yes,
again, so that her rotation is always with these things in this lifestyle. And it was like so simple, so easy, and who knew that just a wipe off marker, use the mirror. It's like you have your own whiteboard there.
exactly. And you look at the mirror every day, so it's always there, and it's just like, oh, what am I going to do today? And it's not as organized or as strict as that sounds. It's much more fluid and flexible.
I'm gonna miss that check.
Yeah, and it's just
it's
like, yeah, well, I did that today and whatever. And it could be that's what works for me. So, but it could be anything. Anyone you can make it fine. You can make it so that it fits into your lifestyle, into your day, in a way that it doesn't feel like you fail. So if you set yourself up so that you can succeed, you'll feel so much better about it, And so not making myself try to do everything every day was the best way to do it, because I just found myself failing all the time. So it's like, okay, this is not sustainable. How can I make this sustainable? How can I make it for me? And so that's what worked for me. But it could look like anything for anybody. But how do you do that? You have to know yourself. You have to listen to yourself. Learn how to listen to yourself as if you're like a little puppy that you're being kind to, And it's like the puppy peed on the carpet. But so the puppy,
we're back to that.
So the puppy peed, you're potty training your cute little puppy, but how are you going to, you don't yell and, throttle the puppy. You don't negative self-talk that puppy nearly as bad as you negative self-talk yourself when you,
right?
So I try to remember and treat myself like I'm a cute little puppy. How would you deal with that? Or an adoring child, somebody that you love, that is young and trying their best, because your body is trying its best to take care of you. It really is. It just is doing the best it can. So you have to start where you are and do it with a kindness so that you can sustain it over time.
That's so true. And I just love that. And it kind of just moves us right into the conversation to tell us about your business, movement and design. What's all about? And what's that all about? And how do you integrate these things into it so that you're helping yourself along the way? Because, it could be, you're only a flare up away if you're not taking care of yourself and not being intentional at the same time.
Yeah. Well, this was something that I had to learn by force, right? Because I had RA and I was still a landscape architect, and my MO up until that point was to push and push and push. And if you find yourself in some kind of a block, you work harder and you don't take breaks. You work through the break and until you get the job done. And then it got to a point where that was not possible anymore, right? Because I had this condition. And so I had to, how can you be productive when that is the only mode of that's the only mode of operation that you know. And that's all that I knew up until that point. And it served me for however many years. So it's effective. But then what I found was it's not the only way to be productive, pushing and hard work, the whole ethic of hard work
that's all I knew too.
Yeah. I mean, it's one way to get things done, but it's not the only way to get things done. And it might not be the best way to get things done. And so this is when I brought my landscape architecture design career together with my Feldenkrais work of gentle movement and awareness, learning about yourself. How can you make the best of yourself to move forward? And I brought them both together. And what I realized, the Feldenkrais method is about learning how you do things. And you learn not like you're in school. You learn the way we all learned as babies, how we learned how to walk, how we learned how to talk. There were no goals. There's no tests. There's no sense of failure when you didn't walk the first 10,000 times you tried, Right. It's all trial and error, but each error, instead of it being failure, it's a learning experience. You learn, oh, that didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work. And you start to build this foundation of self-knowledge, and how that learning works in your brain is very similar to how creativity works in your brain. And so
Isn't that amazing, everybody?
Yeah.
So
because basically
we have such amazing bodies.
Yeah. So what is learning? But it's taking two things that weren't connected before and making new connections between them. You're learning something new, something you didn't know before. Now there's a connection there, and then you've learned it. And that's what creativity is taking two ideas, two thoughts, two things that weren't connected before, and putting them together and coming up with something new. And so creativity and learning work the same in your brain. And what I found is if you can bring that, how can I say this? If you can bring that state, that learning state to your work, you can be more creative. You can also be more responsive. And you can do this in a gentle way, and ease can be a generative state. So that's what I'm doing with Bueno Movement and Design. And I teach a workshop. I teach classes online, and I teach a workshop specifically on creativity, on how you can bring that creative state online when you need it. And you can, you don't have to be an artist to be creative. We can be creative in anything, in our businesses, and how we handle our family, how we deal with crisis, how we reinvent ourselves, reimagine our lives. Everything has a creative thread through it. And how can you be creative when you come across the blank page or come across a creative block, some kind of resistance? And the resistance can look like not coming up with new ideas, or it could look like procrastination, or it could look like some other kind of block, like you can't go forward and you feel thwarted. So how do you deal with that? And that's what my workshop does, is like ways to work around the blocks. How can you do that? And you do it through movement. Again, that mind-body connection. Yeah. If you change how you move, you can change how you think. And that's my area of research now. Is pretty much.
I just love it. There's so much there. And last year she connected the concept of her business and in the movement and design, and integrated that into some of the work she was doing, teaching other landscape architects best practices for doing their work. And she integrated those two things together, and it was such a beautiful idea, which is what we're doing here today, talking about what we do and in just helping ourselves and integrating those thoughts. So we thought we would move into just a quick demonstration. So, we can talk about this. We were talking about that yesterday in terms of we could talk about it all day long, but it really is hard to comprehend what this really means. So we're going to just have Anita walk us through a quick demonstration of what that really looks like.
Yes, right? Because feeling is knowing. Once you feel it, you can understand it. And without the experience, it's hard to explain. So I'm going to do a tiny little sample lesson, a sample movement lesson. And anyone can do this. And so if you're sitting in a chair.
And if I can interrupt you, for anybody out there saying, oh, we're going to do a whole nother workshop, it's just a few minutes. So it's just a quick demonstration.
Yeah, no, this is just a quick, this is just a short, this is a sample. Think of this as a little sample. The lessons are usually longer, but this, we'll see how it works and see what happens. And so a couple of things to keep in mind. This is based on the Feldenkrais method, and the whole idea is to do less than you can. And that in and of itself is a challenge for a lot of us. So it's not an exercise. You're not going to do, as much as you can. You're going to go within the realm of comfort. And so if you're sitting in a chair, come to the front of the chair so that the back of your thighs are free from the chair and your feet are on the floor. And just take a few moments to feel how you're sitting on your sit bones on the left side and the right side of your pelvis on the chair. And you might have more weight on one side than another. And that's normal. That's pretty typical. So don't change it. You're just going to see what you do spontaneously. And again, there's no right or wrong. There's only what you do and noticing what you do. Mm-hmm. So start by feeling, yeah. So if you're
Come on, guys, do this with me.
Yes. So if you're at the front part of your chair, just feel, where is the weight on your sit bones? Is it more on your left side? Is it more on your right side? What do you do spontaneously? And then again, leaving that alone, start to turn a little bit left and a little bit right, as if you're just looking left and right. And notice, go slow enough that you can notice where you can go easily. And yes, you can go further, but it would take more effort. So go, and maybe it's just a few inches left and a few inches right. So it doesn't matter how far you can go. You're finding, where is that threshold? Where does ease turn into effort? And so just go a little bit left and a little bit right, and notice, mark in the room, where can you go left and right? If you go left, pick a spot in the room that shows you how far you can go, and then do the same thing to the right. And those are your benchmarks. That's just to know where you are when you start. We're going to go through a few variations of movement and see where that ends up at the end. So now take your hands and put them on either side of your cheek. So the heels of your hands are on your chin and your elbows are close to your chest. And then just go left and right, again, keeping your elbows close to your chest. And this time you can go a little bit faster, but do it light and easy, bouncing left and right. Do, left, right. And I call this Home Alone hands. If you guys remember back in the day, Macaulay Culkin was, when he was young, and he did that movie Home Alone. And he's like, oh yeah, with his hands on his both cheeks, left and right. And then let that go. Let your arms down and rest. We rest a lot in Feldenkrais. That's a whole nother story. I could talk about resting in a minute. But every time we rest is a chance to check in again and feel, maybe the weight has changed on your left and right sides of your sit bones, on the left and right sides of your pelvis. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's different, maybe not. It's okay. And if you're not sure, that's fine. That's a question. Asking the question is more important than coming up with the answer. And so now just go left and right again. Now slow, like you did before, and see how far can you go. And has that changed? How far can you go easily, I should say? And perhaps it's already changed. And so if it hasn't changed, that's okay. I got another variation for you. So now turn in one direction and stay there. So turn as far as you can go easily and stay facing that direction. So it's less than you can do. It's just a little bit that way. Keep your face facing that point in front of you and just take your eyes a little further in that direction and then back in front. So your eyeballs are moving in their sockets. They're just going a little bit further and back in front. So the eyeballs go to the side and to the front, to the side, to the front. And I know this feels weird. And then notice, how are your eyes moving? Do they jump? Or are they scanning across the horizon? Or do they dip down? Or do they go up? There's all these different ways that we move our eyes that are habitual that we don't even notice. And so you're facing sideways, your eyes are going a little bit further and back, and then come back to the center and pause. And when we move our eyes, so when we move our eyes, so our eyes are connected, right? We have 6 muscles that move our eyeballs, and they're connected to our neck, which is connected to our shoulders and to the rest of us. So how we use our eyes is actually very much integrated in how we move ourselves and how we use our musculature, but we just don't think about it. And so do the same thing again, turn to the side and stay there. And now you're going to take your eyes back to the front and then forward again. So your head doesn't move, your shoulders don't move, you're still twisted to one side, but the eyeballs are moving in the opposite direction. And again, feel, do they jump or do they scan smoothly? Or are there little places where it likes to skip? Does it go along the horizon? Does it go down? Does it go up? What do you do? And then come back to the center. And now, as a reference, just like we did at the beginning, how far can you turn in that same direction? How far can you go easily, and has that changed? And we could do the same thing in the other direction now. But before we do the other direction, now just check, compare one side with the other side. And how far can you go easily on the second side? And maybe that hasn't changed. Maybe one side has changed more than the other. Maybe you find differences from right and left. And we can do the same thing on the other side too. And it's like, what? So I'm just curious, did you feel anything?
Oh my gosh, I did. I was a little skeptical about the chair exercise, but trust you as always. But I did. I one side I could go further than the other, and but once we got through the eyes going, I could go further to the side that I was limited on. So that was
So it changed. Something happened.
Yeah,
I know.
but it always makes me relaxed in a way that it helps reduce the stress too. Like that, I can feel those muscles just working and getting stronger during that time. And
yeah. Well, what happened? So like, what just happened? You know, and that's what a lot of people are like, this is magic. Well, it's not really magic. I mean, it's the magic of neuroplasticity.
Okay, the first thought, though, people might be thinking, what is this? What are you doing? Come on. And then the magic happens.
Yeah. And then here's the thing is not everyone's going to feel differences with every variation. And we just did a few variations. And there's many more that you can do. And there's thousands of these types of lessons. But basically what they all do is that they focus you on your internal landscape. They focus you on what's happening with you. And they bring you into the present moment. So you're not thinking about the future. You're not thinking about the past. You're just thinking about what's happening here. And they reveal habits that you've always had that are hidden because you don't notice them anymore, about how you sit, how you move, how you use your eyes, how you turn yourself or don't turn yourself. Where are you moving? And so all of those things are calming, right? Yeah. Coming into the present moment, focusing on yourself, going into your internal landscape. It has that parasympathetic response.
It's so true. And it's amazing when, as a dancer, it was always what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So I know that there's that part of it too, but I know that we're also running out of time. And I know that you guys have hung in there for more than usual. So really appreciate that. And I'm just going to flash in case people have questions for you. I have Anita's email in case you want to get more information. I know that there's people in our group. I know some of you out there, I've had conversations that may benefit from this kind of exercise. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity. This is also where she gets information. It's her email. So even if you're not interested in the class, it really is up here if you want to connect with Anita to ask her a question, to get more information about the breathing exercises, or how do we do any of that, because I know that life is stressful. We all can use it, and then when you have issues that your legs are restless and your body is having trouble functioning, it's what got me through some dark days where I didn't think I was going to be able to walk again. And so you never know what can help. So just thought I would introduce you to that. Wanted to go back over the things that we talked about today. So just real quick, that remember, life isn't always easy, and life isn't going to fix it for you. So you have to accept your fate. And not believe it, though. You have to believe that you could get beyond it. We are not given a life sentence for whatever situation or conditions that we have. We are resilient people. We are resilient, and thank you so much, Anita, for introducing us to the way to be discovering ourselves, discovering things that we could do, simple habits that you can do, like the mirror checklist, in terms of whatever works for you, what are they? And then the idea, isn't it great that there's products out there that can help you not only reduce the sugar craving, but allow you to have some of those tastes again that our mouths enjoy. You know, I used to eat for my mouth. My mouth loves food. I'm a big foodie at heart, but my gut doesn't allow my mouth to have the same enjoyment. And so we really eat to stay healthy, but those lives, every now and then we need a little treat, and so it's so great that the pink drink was that for you, and as well as the collagen, right? We all like collagen.
Yeah.
So speaking of collagen, remember you can comment in the comment section of this live. Feel free, their points will add up, and we are still going to have a drawing tomorrow to give away a bottle of 30-day supply of collagen. Do you have any last comments about just your life? Any more?
Well, yeah, I just want to remind folks that I teach classes online, and I'm also doing a creativity workshop coming up in March, and you can reach me at that email, class@anitabueno.com. You can also go to my website, anitabueno.com. That's my name. But I really want to leave you with this idea, or this thought, that we are never finished. Like yes, being so a human, there's no end. It's a constant process. And it's also an opportunity to move towards our potential. Always, there's the process of moving, of improving, and you're never going to be done. None of us. We all die unfinished. But that is a relief, because it's not like you have a heavy weight of you have to achieve something. It's a process, and we all have the ability to improve. Scientifically, neuroplasticity, our brains are always learning and growing and becoming more efficient from our environment till the very last day that we're alive. So just remember that, it's a process, and the process is moving towards our potential, and we can do it. We all can do it. We have this. It's innate.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Anita. And remember what Anita says, listen to your body. And sometimes that might be to take a cold plunge. So there you have it. Have a great day. And thanks for listening. See you later. This is Teri Gonzales, the Gutsy Mentor, signing out.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed.